we've all seen how Songs to Your Son can go because everybody loves With Arms Wide Open. But I feel like this is like a little more nuanced take on Scott Stapp's.
Arms wide open.
Yeah, you don't have the rights to sing that though.
I do. That's where you're wrong, Fred. The Full Spin Club has a small budget. All of it goes to me singing Scott Stapp. If you'd like to sponsor the show, you may email me. Be like, please sing more Creed.
Hello, my son. Oh, how the breakers roll. Keep between the lines. See, it feels just like a being born. It means to love someone. So go and live all around you. Seems so serious.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Full Spin Club. My name is David Stewart, and I'm the host of this online album listening club. If you've never been here before, it is like a book club, but it's for albums, and it's a way to get to know people as well as music at the same time. So if that's your thing, please like, comment, subscribe. Today, we are talking with Fred Morrison about Sturgill Simpson's A Sailor's Guide to Earth. So for those of you that haven't been here before, there are three main segments to the show. There is On a Pedestal, which is where we talk about the things we liked about the album. There's On a Spit, which is where we talk about the things we didn't like about the album. And then there is On a Turntable, which is where I turn the questions more on the guest and use the album as a backdrop to get to know them better. So, with all of that being said, I have a fun little first segment that Fred doesn't know about called Liner Notes. So Fred brought this album to the club as opposed to being assigned an album. So it is now on him to tell us why he wanted to bring this album to the club. So that's what Liner Notes is about. So Fred, why this album?
Why this album? Well, first of all, having perused most of the Full Spin Club's past catalog, I didn't think I would see too much country coming to your group of friends, even though you are, like Sturgill Simpson, from Kentucky.
Now here's the thing. Here's the thing about the country. People have pitched it. I strategically avoid it. Because I'm not a big country fan, and I do my best to like find the good in every album that comes through the Full Spin Club. And most of the time with country, I'm like, I don't think I could. Now people have pitched it, and that was also before I reformatted the booking process, where you can bring an album, and I will just pick from your three that you choose. So like, I'm sure this is in my future, more and more country music. In fact, I'm sure there are people out there that are going to be upset that you got to do Sturgill Simpson when they had come to me prior and been like, what about Sturgill Simpson? And I'm like, nee.
It really helps when you've served as the host's legal guardian before. You are able to press gang them a little bit before.
That's true. For those that are unaware, Fred got to be on this show because he used to be my camp counselor, and now we're friends. And so that is the weird dynamic you're going to see unfold here. For those that may have watched last season and watched Max Warner defend Jimmy Eat World, that is going to be the vibe where no one respects me, and I'm the younger brother of the group.
Basically. But to get back to your actual question, the other reason I picked Sturgill from the large segment of country music, and Sturgill's definitely gateway country. Like he can walk a lot of different lines. I actually kind of brought this up. Sturgill has been nominated for Grammys in the rock category, the bluegrass category, the country category, which he has won, and also the Americana category, which is like the true black sheep of everything, because it's like, we can't fit this anywhere else, so we're just going to call it Americana. The album that we're actually going to talk about is the one he did win the Grammy for Best Country Album. Well, it was also voted Album of the Year, which was really funny because it went up against Beyonce's Lemonade and Adele's 25. So
yeah, I was nominated for that.
Yeah, it got nominated. Yeah. And afterwards, Sturgill sold a t-shirt through his website that just said, "Who the fuck is Sturgill Simpson?" Because nobody knew who he was when he got nominated, especially with those like star power.
Like with the Grammy crowd.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
So I feel like also this is what is this? This is his third album. Should have actually fact checked that. Maybe I'm wrong. And he started with much more very country focused albums. And this was like his first foray into like kind of switching it up a bit. There's a lot of horns in this. There's a lot of almost like funk and like just kind of classic rock feel, as well as, you know, hearing the slide guitar, chicken picking and other type of stuff. But country, I think Ray Charles put it best, country is storytelling. And so I think he does a really good job of keeping that oral tradition of storytelling throughout the album. And I think that's truly, to me, what makes it. And without going to that, Nashville pop sound of just pandering to talking about, jean shorts and F-150 pickups and barbecues.
And beers and boobs.
Yeah, exactly. So there's no country girl shake it for me on this album, which,
Fine.
if you're into Luke Bryan, that's fine. But
Whatever.
This has got a little bit more of a little bit of modern feel, as well as just taking those themes of like someone growing up in a rural area or doing the things of the working class person, but without being as pandering as other music.
Yeah.
Which is why I like him, and which is probably why he has such a large crossover appeal as well.
Okay. So that all makes sense why you would bring it. It is like the safe bet to bring for me because like safer, because we talked about a lot, but like up to the lead up to this.
Well, yeah, I the funnier thing is that my background is definitely like you, whiny emo music.
Yeah.
And so, but the emo to country thing has been happening for a while now. So, it happens.
It's true. It
Also,
happens.
we now are in my hometown, which is a little more rural place than
a little
Cincinnati.
more rural. Yeah. Well, so notes for Max. He had a fun whiteboard for me to write on that said Full Spin Club on the road. Now this time, this backdrop is far better. So points to Fred if we're making this a competition, which I think we should.
Always with Max.
Yeah. Okay. So that brings us to the first segment, which is On a Pedestal. We're going to talk about the things that are great about this album. And so the first question that we've been doing this season as far as On a Pedestal goes is, as someone sharing music, which is you in this case, there's always the hope that there's like some common ground in the middle of our Venn diagram on things that like I would pick up on.
Yeah.
And like hopes. So like whenever I share music, I hope there's something that someone gets, or I'm like, I hope you really like this singular part because I really like this singular part and I want you to pick up on it too. Do you have anything on this record that you were hoping I would pick up on?
Yes. I definitely think, I don't know, there's just it's A Sailor's Guide to Earth, which is kind of a cool thing because he was a naval officer, and so that's why he used Navy, and there's a lot of references to him being in the Navy.
I did wonder. Yeah, I wondered about why he chose sailor.
Yeah,
like
so
other than like it could be cool.
Yeah, and he was a sailor, and unlike some of us who like went and did a first summer job, like that was his thing. He went and was a young man, joined the Navy, saw the world, and so like I think he uses that as both like his allegory, but sometimes it's actually pretty literal too. In especially one of the songs, so that's pretty cool, but. I think just like the good advice for life and like the song Keep It Between the Lines is it's probably the biggest song off of this album, at least in my friend group, because that's probably all I can really gauge this off of because I don't know what the greater community is listening to off Sturgill albums. But, it's just got like fun advice and just fun turns of phrase that I, kind of stick with me. I think like the line from that one song that I always liked is like, motor oil is motor oil, just keep the engine clean.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of like, life's going to come at you, just like focus on the important things. And I feel like, yeah, you can't like, you may not like country, Sturgill may not be your bop, but like you might at least be like, oh, there's some like good advice. And again, like this is a album that is written to his first son. Which is kind of the theme throughout, especially on the title track, Welcome to Earth, Pollywog.
Yeah.
And, we've all seen how songs to your son can go because everybody loves With Arms Wide Open. But I feel this is like a little more nuanced take on Scott Stapp's.
Arms wide open.
Yeah, you don't have the rights to sing that, though.
I do. That's where you're wrong, Fred. The Full Spin Club has a small budget. All of it goes to me singing Scott Stapp. If you'd like to sponsor the show, you may email me. Be like, please sing more Creed.
Yeah.
Cool, man. All right. So like I did pick up on a lot of that. I picked up on like the fact that it's for his first son. Like I do some reading when I, try new albums. I did pick up on like the storytelling element that you were talking about earlier. Yeah. I picked up on like it's all like really narrative driven. This isn't my first soiree into like that type of thing because like I did do an episode on Billy Strings, which is not like it's bluegrass. It's not necessarily country, which I know like some people would argue over. I'm not one of those people that's going to get in the weeds on that.
Yeah. You're in like Billy Strings territory right now.
Yeah.
He has a festival that's like 10 miles from where we are right now. Not
Right.
even like.
You played it in the car earlier. It was muted, but I saw it playing
Yeah.
on the screen.
Yeah, yeah. That was definitely Shuffle.
Yeah, it was Dust in a Baggie. It's classic because you also grew up in like the northern Michigan area, which is like where he's from, and you know we have that mutual background with Billy Strings. You're just living his life in weird ways because this is Billy Strings territory.
Yeah, fair enough.
But I did pick up on that. I picked up on what we had talked about, like kind of like off camera, was where it was like more alt sounding than it was traditional country.
Yep.
I picked up on his like multi-layered influences. I thought that was really great.
Yeah.
And just generally, like, he seems to be a good composer as well as like a songwriter, as like he's able to like compose these songs and layer the right things in there, add the horns and like and all of like the other elements that make it more intriguing and dynamic to listen to, as opposed to like your average country bop where the dynamic nature of those is trap drums.
Yeah.
Which sucks.
Yeah. Yeah. 808s over things about girls in tight shorts. I think also the thing with Sturgill is that like country, however you want to look at it, has existed for now, if you talk about like the inception being like Hank Williams and stuff like that, you've got the last 70 odd years to pull from.
Mm-hmm.
And like, if you do go back to like the kind of funky era of the 70s where you had like Johnny Cash playing with a horn section and like same with like Chris Christopherson, it is weird, but like there was a country era. So I feel like the other interesting thing is he kind of pulls from like all the different country eras, like equally. Like he does, like, he will play an acoustic guitar by himself, or he will like make a really sad ballad that harkens back to like that 50s country. And I mean, even if you go back and listen to like Patsy Cline and stuff like that from that era, like that's all jazz chords, and like it's like the separation there is like not as much from like, the modern rock of that era. And I think he's just able to like pull from a larger spectrum of country music.
Sure.
Which, granted, I think modern country people are sort of doing it, but they're pulling from modern pop.
Right. And like it makes sense because like so much about country and like bluegrass when we were talking about Billy Strings, but also hip hop is like lineage based. Yeah. So like they like hip hop people like Kendrick Lamar always want to bring like older like generations with them forward. Yeah. And so like what you're explaining to me right now sounds really reminiscent of that, which AKA he's like done his homework and he's like educated and all these things that make good art good. Versus like the other people like Kendrick would like call Drake, like culture vultures, right? Like that just like are there, they don't go as far back because they're not as like well read on the history of the thing that they're attempting to join. And so like it's like not as respectful as like other artists are to like the thing that like gave them the platform that they're currently standing on. Yeah.
And I think it's pretty interesting because this album did win Country Album of the Year, which is ironic because there's a hilarious photo you can find online where they had the CMA Awards, so the Country Music Awards, and literally Sturgill went outside the massive auditorium, set up his case, and busked outside of the CMAs because he was like, they're not inviting me in. So it is kind of, it's interesting. And I mean, granted, the Grammys are not the greatest, litmus test. Like Metallica has been nominated for the best metal album for the last 20 years. Yeah. And like, that's like barely scratches the surface. So it is kind of funny because I feel like some people could be like, yeah, he's not country, obviously, because the Grammys gave him a country award. Yeah. And like, but I feel like, maybe the larger spectrum of more people looking at it could be like, yeah, he's not like everything that's on, country music radio, but like his roots are there and that's undeniable. I mean, he's a dude from Kentucky, served in the military, like drives a truck, can play guitar super well. And I think one of the coolest things is it was interesting to go back to listening to this album because currently my favorite two Sturgill albums are during the pandemic. He re-recorded most of his hits into two albums called Cut and Grass Volume 1 and 2. And he literally just redid all of his hits as bluegrass songs. And those are phenomenal because they get down to the roots. And he took a song that had a horn section and then all of a sudden he's got like, just straight up mandolin, fiddle, banjo, whatever. And I almost love those more because they are more bare bones. And I do like bare bones country and bare bones music.
Just like DIY stuff in general.
Yeah. And it was just really impressive for someone to take something that they'd already made and then break it down and repackage it. And not in a like, we remastered this for our 20th anniversary, but like do a way that it was like, no, like I can do both and I want to do both.
Yeah. Just pushing it for the sake of pushing it.
Yeah.
You know, like the process was the art in this case as opposed to the outcome. Like,
Fair enough. Look at you.
I am decent at this. Like, I put effort into this. All right. So moving on to the next question. I'm going to tell you my 3 favorite tracks. I want you to rate them out of 10.
Okay.
And then I want you to tell you want you to tell me what my picks say about me.
Okay.
And then I want to ask you yours, like what your top 3 are. So my top 3 are the opener, Welcome to Earth, Polywog.
Yep.
Then Brace for Impact.
Okay. Yeah.
And Call to Arms.
Yeah. You picked probably. It's funny. I just wrote kind of like a 2, maybe 1 sentence blurb on each of these.
Mm-hmm.
And it's you got Welcome to Earth is obviously a cool intro track, but it's also really hammering home the this is an album for my son.
Yeah.
And so this is the guidance. Brace for Impact. I almost did a 1-word description, which was nihilism.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because it's kind of awesome. Brace for Impact, which is the parenthetical of Live a Little.
Yeah.
Which is, I think the entire idea of the song is we're all going to die, so you might as well live a little.
Have a little fun. Dude.
Yeah. And oh, wow, the horses are behind us.
Oh,
We're getting
amazing.
so rustic.
Look at this content I'm creating. Look at this content. Someone should put a billboard back here.
For clarification, this is not my home. This is my in-laws. I do not live in this most picturesque, ranch with horses running in the background, but it is really cool. And that mule's name is Fibber, and she's lovely. And then the third song that you picked was Call to Arms, which is kind of fascinating because it is pretty much an anti-war, military industrial complex song.
Coming from the guy who was in the Navy.
Yeah, coming from, which to me is
dude,
is more clout.
If you talk to any veteran, they'll tell you this is horseshit.
Yeah.
So most of the people I know who are anti-war are the ones who were fighting them.
Yeah.
That makes total sense.
Yeah, it's it's really good. So I do like that you picked up on the most nihilistic, the most punk rock, and then maybe the sweetest song are yours. So honestly, those are pretty up there for me in songs. Polywog is okay. I think it is kind of a mellow intro. So I wouldn't put it as my favorite song, but it's probably one of Sturgill's favorite off the album. It's probably the most heartfelt that he wrote.
Well, I've noticed recently I've trended in starting this season and being let's pick our favorite 3 songs. And dude, almost all of them, the opener is one of my favorites because it's just every album that's come through so far has been people really intentionally making albums.
Yeah.
And so the openers are very intentional and that they are a great introduction to the rest of what you're about to do.
Yeah. Well, now it makes it, yeah. So the other one I threw out was he kind of on his second to most recent album, the last one he released under Sturgill Simpson before he changed his name to Johnny Blue Skies, which is a fascinating tangent we can go down later. But he did a concept album called Dude and Juanita, and it's literally just him telling a story through the entire album. And it's a concept album in the fact that it's start to finish the story of the same person. Features, and he has Willie Nelson guest on it. It's pretty phenomenal. But yeah, I think he does, he is still of the era where he is, or not era, he's still of the mindset that he is curating an album that is an experience, not a so we made 3 singles, and then we filled the rest of it with whatever the bass player and drummer wanted to write.
Whatever riff-raff we could throw in there.
Yeah, which,
to meet quotas for the...
having recorded a terrible album in my life, shout out Max, I understand
He's catching
filling it up.
strays. It's only fair. You caught strays.
He's not
in his
catching
episode.
strays. He was just there too. But like I said, when you let the lead guitarist write lyrics on a song, it may not be your favorite. I'm sorry, Max. But
I'm sorry, please love me.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, the Brace for Impact is definitely, it's up there. It probably would be in mine. And then Call to Arms is just really good. And it's a good critique mixed with just some cool country bluegrass, interludes as well. Just talking about being against going into the Middle East and fighting wars that you're not really certain if they serve a purpose. And then just, wailing on some slide guitar riffs and pedal steel.
Yeah.
It's got it's very, unlike a lot of modern country. So, that is also unique and what kind of sets him apart.
Yeah, I probably picked the least country ones.
All of this album is pretty funky too.
Yeah.
It's got, it's a different style. But again, I had to soft catch you. You couldn't go full country. Otherwise, we would have picked a Turnpike Troubadours album, and you would have hated the entire time. But I would have enjoyed it. Probably.
All right, cool. Well, out of 10, where's my taste at?
I think it's like you're here for Sturgill. You're not here for anything else, and you're probably a good 7.
All right, I'll take it.
Yeah, I love this album. It's funny to like go back and think about it because in my head, this album wasn't that old until we like started looking at it. I was like, oh, this is 8 years old.
Yeah,
like,
yeah. That's fair. The pandemic time really just kind of disappears.
Yeah. So I was just like, oh yeah, this is a little older. Yeah, this album came out when Trump ran for presidency.
Oh,
so yeah, it's a while ago.
Well.
He didn't have as much emotional baggage to bring to the recording at that point.
Fair enough.
But yeah.
Yeah, so really that question is me to like rule out imposter syndrome. I'm like, does he listen to music well? So when I get people to rate my taste, it's more so I'm like, did David do good?
Yeah. And I mean, like honestly, like this is an album I don't think you can do like too wrong. Like there's no like, we did 3 songs that were super country and then we had just a weird 80s synth pop interlude, which you might get with some random modern bands, but yeah, I think it's
mic a little closer to you. It's just I'm just getting nervous.
You're getting nervous. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm used to screaming into these. So
yeah, I understand.
Yeah, that's where I would say it. I think it's fair to say it's an easy album to pick something, at least in my opinion, it's an easy album to pick something good off of, but also like I do think, like you kind of said, there is a little bit for everybody. And if you aren't like hardcore country, you're going to find something that's at least somewhat interesting to yourself on there.
Yeah. And like, if you're open-minded enough, like I like to say that I am like, I don't lean country, but at the same time, like if somebody I trust brings me one, I'll be like, all right, yeah, let's give it a go.
Yeah.
All right, that brings us to our third moment of the pedestal segment. I'm going to choose a single track that I think is the most timeless. Do you agree or disagree? And then what is yours?
Okay.
I'm going to have to say Welcome to Earth Polywog is probably the most timeless.
Okay.
It is like, I mean, timeless, but it is, that goes against my rule of making it specific to a timestamp moment.
Mm-hmm.
Because like the last episode I just recorded, I was like, I think that's what makes a timeless song is that there's no timestamp. And I was like, but it's the birth of your first son. But that's a universal experience for anyone who chooses to have children. Yeah. So like that vibe will carry on for anyone who like chooses to have children. And so I think that's what makes it a little more timeless. Unless humanity ends and then like, well then we're not listening to music anyway. So
it's fine.
Time is in the observer's mind. So like
yeah. I think you definitely picked the song that like is the theme of the album. It is definitely like it's like, if you've ever written a set, you've written sets for comedy. Mm-hmm. Like I've written sets for a performance, like a band. You definitely always want to like pull everybody in with the first one, like whether it's the first joke or whether it's your first song. Mm-hmm. So you try to pick something you're going to do well. It's going to have like the theme or like the feel. So when people are like, okay, I'm not going to leave or I'm not going to go pee.
Introduces the audience to you as the performer. That's usually where my head's at with jokes is like, I need to introduce you to my style of humor. Yeah. That way the rest of the set can happen.
It's dark.
It's gotten better. It's gotten better.
Yeah, happiness. It's cool.
But
great.
The fleeting is what makes it special.
Right now, all I have in the back of my head is that Caitlin, my wife, is going to watch this and just shake her head the entire time.
Don't worry, Max will too.
It's fair.
This will be inside baseball.
Inside baseball for our friends. Is this going to actually be put on the internet? Who cares?
Maybe.
We're just gonna talk about it. We're gonna see. As long as the audio hardware stays working, that's the real.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
That'd be cool.
This is our third try.
Yeah. But I'm gonna go. So I will say my song to put on a pedestal, which is funny because I'm holding up my Spotify to make sure I remember every name on here, but the only one that's liked, which is Keep It Between the Lines. And,
okay.
Which I think is totally a continuation on the theme of Welcome to Earth Polylog. I think it's more upbeat of that version. Mm-hmm. It's like a fun, bumpier song. Like there's horn interludes constantly. Yeah. And it is, it's like, it's just keep it between the lines, keep it between the mustard and the mayo. Just like, you don't have to, like, I think it's kind of a cool thing because he's telling his son, like, you do not have to, like, become a rock star or become the greatest at anything. Just keep it fucking together.
Yeah.
Like, which is like, if you're a parent, like that should be your expectation. Like, don't try to raise the next, superstar athlete or Taylor Swift or whatever. Like, just hope your kid's good and can keep it together. Cause like, honestly, like if our parents had, really instilled just that much with us, like, yeah, it'd be probably great for everyone if that is like the guidelines everybody went by.
Yeah, that's fair. And like advice is also often timeless if it's coming from that kind of place. Like especially like very realistic advice.
Yeah. Like at no point is he like, yeah, it's literally the refrain in the chorus is stay in school, keep off the hard drugs, and keep it between the lines. He doesn't say don't do drugs.
Yeah, the soft ones are fine.
Yeah, he just says stay off the hard ones. Don't do anything crazy. Just, be realistic. And I think like realistic expectations, whether you're a dad, a partner, a boss, like whatever, it's a good take home message.
Yeah, it's a good take home. Yeah, you're right. All right, that brings us to On a Spit now.
Okay. I'm ready for
which
this.
is, I'm going to give this, the first question of this is, I'm going to give this album my best schoolyard insults, and I've been framing them in the, like, sort of a Yo Mama style, or where I'm like, this album so.
Yeah.
And I am making this one up on the fly because I'm underprepared for this. So I am going to go with this album so country. Wait, hold on. This album so not country, I enjoyed it.
Yeah, that's probably fair. Which is hilarious in that, again, it won the Grammy for Best Country Album, which, again, as we've stated, like, what do the Grammys mean? Like,
yeah, that's fair. I mean, yeah, I have a lot of Grammy picks where I'm like, what the hell?
Yeah, I mean, like, yeah, when you get...
Famously, The Heist by Macklemore winning over Good Kid, Mad City. That's crazy.
I mean, but yeah, it's like, who's picking this? I think one of my favorite moments, if you've ever watched the Pearl Jam documentary, Pearl Jam 20, where it literally just goes over the band's 20-year career at that point, which was, over 15 years ago. Mm-hmm. I think it's Stone Gossard is like in his basement and he's like showing them around his house. He's like, oh, there's a Grammy. And it's just like on a shelf in the basement. Not care less that he actually won it. And it was probably for one of the later albums that nobody listened to as well. 10 didn't win a Grammy. I'm sure. Actually might have. I don't fact check me, internet, please. But
or do in the comments. Engagement's great.
Yeah. 10 is a great album and it should win a Grammy, but winning a Grammy really means nothing. But I do think that it's pretty interesting with like, with a country album, like winning that, or however you want to look at it, like what is country? It's the same thing. Like you can get into semantics of whatever. I mean, rock and roll is probably like the easiest thing to be like, okay, that's just rock and roll. Let's lump that over there. Or like there's an 808 in the background. Let's call that hip hop.
That's
like
urban music. And they have that whole urban category now.
Yeah. And it's like, which is also funny because like growing up listening to a lot of punk, it's like labels, don't you label me. And I totally get that too. And labeling this as a country album is cool. I think this is just a great album. Sturgill happens to come from a country background. And like, if you've ever, there's a really good podcast called Guitar Moves and they show off, Sturgill gets to show off his like prowess at playing like old school chicken picking, like true, just shredding an acoustic guitar kind of country. And he can do it. And like, that's his roots. But it's kind of like, if we're gonna get really bougie, it's kind of like a lot of artists, like if you, whatever your medium, if it's, painting or whatever, it's like you learn the hard stuff in school. You learn all the like, oh, this is color, this is light, this is whatever I'm gonna do. Same with photography or video production. And then you just go from there and are like, oh, well, now I've got the basics down. Let me create whatever I want and whatever feels good to me. And I feel like Sturgill did that. He came from the country background. He knew how to make that music. He took what he learned and then he moved forward from there.
Yeah.
And plenty of people have done that. There's punk bands that have slowly shifted to pop. There is, rappers who for some unexplainable reason are now playing country songs.
Yeah. What are you going to do, Post Malone? I don't know.
Post Malone, Jelly Roll,
yep.
Apparently MGK. Like,
country can have him.
Yeah. Pride of Ohio. Am I right?
Damn
Am I right? So yeah, there's a lot that can be like, you can look at it good or bad, but it is kind of cool where you've got your roots and you've moved forward from there.
Yeah. Well, pushing the genre forward, it like rips, especially, but it has to come from an educated place.
I mean, I don't think that's true. I don't think you have to be educated because I think
you
that's
need to be educated in your medium though. Like, does it not? You have to know the basics. You have to know the lines before you can improvise. That's like what people would tell me in acting is like, memorize the script, then you get to improvise because then you understand.
All right. I can take that, but I also feel like, some of the people who have probably been best at their, art or whatever also have just been like, this is just what I'm going to do. And whether it fits in that country or whether it fits in anything, I kind of like that Americana label is so ridiculous. And I remember there's an interview with Tyler Childers at the Americana Awards, another good Kentucky boy, just like Sturgill. And they were like, you're playing Americana. It's so great. And he's like, I am not playing Americana. I am playing country. I'm just playing country the way I think it should sound. The way I
like it, yeah.
And, however you want to do it. Again, like labels in music, it is whatever. This album, like, literally has funk grooves and, like, guitar parts that sounds like they're off a James Brown album rather than, country. And that's what makes it cool. But yeah, maybe you're right. Maybe it is that he's just, like, come from that country background and has moved forward and grown. And, I mean, if there's anybody who's like really weirdly grown, it's Sturgill Simpson. He released, his first 2 albums, the second being Meta Modern Sounds of Country Music, which, let's be real, someone at least studied postmodernism at some point in their life. And then he went on to do Sound and Fury, which was nominated for Best Rock Album and includes also on Netflix, you can go look this up, a anime film to go along with the album.
Oh my God.
Did you not know this?
No.
Yeah. So that was that. And like all of us were like, oh my God, like where is Sturgill going? Like this is like, it doesn't sound like it's not a country album. It's definitely rock. To then he's like, all right, I'm going to go back and record this one-off country song, Dead Won't Die, which he recorded to be the main staple of the soundtrack of a Jim Jarmusch and Bill Murray project.
All right.
So... Which, yeah, did you ever see that movie?
No.
It's a zombie movie made by Jim Jarmusch with Bill Murray and Adam Driver.
All right.
In which it's like, and the joke is that this song is just playing in the background. Dead Won't Die. It's a zombie movie.
Yeah.
Pretty on the nose.
Fair.
And then moved on to be like, you know what? I'm going to go back and make a concept album with Willie Nelson called Dude and Juanita. And then he finished all of his like major label contract obligations. It's like, cool. I'm not going to perform as Sturgill anymore. It's kind of weird. I don't like performing under my own name. It feels too personal. It feels like I can't be my own self. So then he changed his name to Johnny Blue Skies, which apparently is the name that some bouncer at a bar used to call him every time he walked in the door. He'd be like, "What's up, Johnny Blue Skies?" And so so now that's somewhere in between like Southern rock, country, and whatever. Also, the dude like went and played at the like Dead on the Beach, like played with like remnants of the Grateful Dead band. Like, dude's all over the place.
He's just hanging out. He's here to have a good time.
He's just on side quests. But
what's it say? Live a little?
Yeah, live a little.
He's just living a little.
He's living a little. And I think it's cool. I think he's done a lot of cool things. And I do think that like, yeah. And then after all that, he came back and did the 2 Cut and Grass albums. Like, you know what? I'm just going to release some shred and bluegrass tracks because that's what I like to do.
Yeah.
Which is really cool.
Yeah, so like these sort of Renaissance folk are like who I gravitate towards artistically anyway. And so like that makes sense that like I dig this person, and it's because it's like country informed alt rock.
Yeah. And I mean, also randomly, now the dude really is doing side quests. He was in the most recent Martin Scorsese movie, Killers of the Flower Moon.
Okay.
He was also in the most recent season of The Righteous Gemstones.
Oh, sup?
Which is hilarious. He played one of the militia members in Steve Zahn's militia.
Okay, yeah.
He's the one who like separates from Steve Zahn's. Like, we're actually going to be the like resurrecting the Southern Monuments militia.
Yeah.
Which is again pretty great because he's like truly poking fun at like a lot of the people where he's from.
Yeah. All right, man. I'm going to try and keep this rolling because you have obligations after this.
Whatever.
Oh, he's having a good time.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So let's say this album is your crush. I'm going to try and shatter your rose-colored glasses by pointing out some things I don't like about it.
Okay, fair.
Rate my flaying of your potential love out of 10 and tell me if you still love them.
Okay.
So most of my notes are about what you've already kind of gushed over, which is keep it between the lines.
Yeah.
That song was so reminiscent to me of like that video Michael Scott made for his unborn son with Dwight. He's like, here's how you take off a bra.
Hopefully not as on the nose as that.
But like it was vibes were similar enough to where that's what I was thinking about during that song.
I guess it's better than With Arm Wide Open, but
the other thing that I thought of during that song was like, as an artist, I thought keep it between the lines was like a counterintuitive line for him to use because like in art, like if you're coloring in the coloring book, it seems almost mean to be like, that is out of the box. You should be coloring.
Yeah. I don't know. I guess it really depends on what your lines are. Maybe his lines are like it's music.
I think realistically, keep it between the lines is talking about driving. Like I think that's what he ultimately landed on. I was like, this isn't about a coloring book. No. That would be stupid. But it's funny to me that my first inkling was like, he's probably talking about coloring book.
Yeah, but like, I mean, also it's definitely about driving. But like driving in that essence, it's like I just want you to be safe. I just want you to not hit an oncoming car. And where it's like, be stupid, maybe speed a little, maybe don't buy the fancy synthetic oil to put in your car, but just don't endanger yourself. Yeah. It's the takeaway. I have done nothing but give examples to you in life of not, endangering yourself.
Yeah, there's a YouTube video out there potentially by the time this airs where there was a time you did lead me astray, but what are you going to do?
I'm going to blame that one on Drake.
I didn't. Technically,
not
I was
artist.
A minor. No, but if you
get on the fly. Drake is not. We're not talking about the artist or musician.
No. Inside baseball for the 10 people that are interested in this right now.
Yeah. Moving along.
But that video is funny, and I did get to tell that story and get it recorded, so that's special. All right, that's like basically all I had for like this album as far as like really flaying it. Which like that song is good, but I could not get it out of my head that it's just like a really weird like advice column.
Which is also really funny because like your relationship between you and your child is like insanely personal. No one's ever gonna get it. So it is also like, I'm putting this out here. You're probably gonna think I'm dweeby because again, with Arms Wide Open, perfect example. Like dweeby song. I hope he's not like me. I hope he understands. It's a ridiculous song. Also, doesn't help that it was the era in which like 90% of music videos were CGI, and so terrible. But like, it is weird because he is putting a pretty personal thing that you're like, maybe just like write that for him and tuck it in a notebook for him,
or just over the span of about 18 years, sprinkle these little gems throughout instead of condensing it into a few minutes.
Yeah, a multi-platinum album.
Nah. Everyone has their own.
Has
their own way of parenting.
Fair enough.
What did your dad ever do for you?
Rude. He did not write me a country album, but he did tell me he was proud of me. So, what do you got?
Hey, mine tells me he's proud of me.
Okay, fine. Caitlin is yelling.
I'm just poking the bear. All right. Last part of On a Spit is let's each choose a song to cut from the album, and then if we agree, cool. If we don't, then we gotta sit here until we come across one that is the right one to cut. Now, I'm just going to bust out the gate with this one. There is a cover of Nirvana's In Bloom on this record that does not need to be there. Is it fine? Yes. But does it need to be there? No. Especially because it's slow.
Oh, it is.
And it is like, I don't need Kurt Cobain lyrics to be like softly sung to me as I go to sleep a la a lullaby.
Obviously, you haven't watched the new Robin Pattinson Batman.
Oh, I have.
Because
like
obviously that is literally just the slow song. The same Nirvana song.
Slow song off that album, which is fine.
And just sung repeatedly over and over.
He's like, I am the darkness. Yeah.
Which is actually really fun. To get Kurt to not like scream that, they literally had him lie down on a couch on his back and like held the mic right here and just sang it slowly, and that's how they got it to sound like so apathetic. Yeah, fun things about listening to other podcasts. Also, my other favorite thing is Kurt couldn't sing without playing guitar, so he'd always have an acoustic guitar in his hand while recording vocals. And so like half of like In Utero, if you listen to isolated like vocal tracks, you can hear the shitty acoustic guitar in the background because it was like his like safety blanket.
Interesting.
Fun thing. I'm gonna disagree.
Oh no.
Obviously.
Just for giggles.
Here's the thing. Sturgill's proud of that version.
Okay.
For starters, cool. Because when that album came out, I was still watching The Daily Show a lot, because they had coherence and one host.
Yeah.
Just make a host.
Just make a call.
Yeah, seriously, any of them. Desi Lydic, I don't even care. She does a great job. Roy Wood Jr., you already lost him. He went to CNN. Either way, when he did The Daily Show, that's the song he chose to play. And what was even more uncomfortable is he chose to play it in a turtleneck.
Yeah, this is bad.
And what it makes it even weirder is man is one of the like probably better guitarists in country. Didn't even use a guitar. Just went up there and sang it. Now here's the thing. Here is I think what's the saving grace. there are a multitude of shitty Nirvana covers.
Sure.
I mean, like Gaslight Anthem put one on, what is it? American Slang. I might be wrong on that. Which is fine. They did a deeper cut, which I think is always a good rule of thumb with the Nirvana cover.
Yeah.
Do a deeper cut, prove you actually did your homework. But there's a ton. Like, we all remember when Post Malone during COVID, like, did his full Nirvana cover set. Apparently, Curse Novoselic did enjoy it and liked it and watched it, whatever. So there's a lot of things you can say. But here's the thing. Country is like the bar doesn't matter. You can cover other people's music.
Yeah.
Like, instantly. Like, you know, Darius Rucker covering Wagon Wheel and like making it a huge hit after
a big fat hit. Yeah.
And like that song, like, you know, I feel like covers a lot of the time. It's like, you want to wait a little while. You want to wait a few years.
Yeah.
Country musicians like, no, I'm going to cover, like, that song came out last year, covering it this year.
Yeah.
So there's like definitely a history of covers in country. And I mean, also it's kind of just a cool thing, like whether it's traditionals, like in bluegrass as well, like you're playing just really old standards and that's kind of cool. And you get to put your own take on it. Here's the defense I have for Sturgill. He made that song his own, and I feel like 90% of the Nirvana covers I've heard through the years, because let's be real, like, not a lot of people can match Kurt's energy.
Yeah.
So I appreciate that he didn't try.
Sure.
And he did make it his own. He slowed it down. He made it, and like, In Bloom is probably one of my favorite Nirvana songs. I don't seek out this cover. Yeah, I will admit that.
It's not good. Well, I mean, all right, it's fine. It's fine. Is
musically,
it worth being on the album, though? That is the question.
But here's the thing: is like, again, it's like this whole thing of turning the genre on its head, doing whatever he wants to do. He chose a Nirvana cover. Here's the thing. So super random. So in the album before this, Metamodern Sounds of Country Music, which again, ridiculous name, but also great. He does a lot of, you know, more country songs, and then he does a country cover of a classic song. And what bothered me is that I, personally, as a very terrible musician who plays gigs in bars around my very small town, I had a friend who was a cook at the camp that David and I went to, who we had a song that we thought was hilarious to sing to each other, and it's When in Rome's The Promise, which is a 80s synth pop ballad.
I know that song.
Exactly, because Josh played it every day in the kitchen, and that's why I love it. And I was like, I'm going to be really funny. I'm going to learn how to play that acoustically, and I play it out at gigs. And then,
but would you put it on an album dedicated to your son?
Well, but that's the thing is, he did put it on Metamodern Sounds of Country Music, and I'm at a friend's house, and we're listening to it on vinyl, and that song comes on, and I was like, what the fuck? I thought I was the clever person who was going to do a, like, folky country cover of an 80s synth pop ballad, and what was even funnier is everybody else in the room was like, Sturgill didn't write this? And I'm like, God damn it. But yeah, like, I think he picks something that's just so off base to be his cover, which I think is cool. Yeah, I remember, like, a dude I used to play in a band with, like, Nirvana is his favorite band of all time, and I remember showing him In Bloom, and he was like, get that the fuck away from me, which is fair. And I do think, but you
have made so many points against this song.
No, but my
defending.
Well, yeah, but my takeaway is, like, he made it his own. He did not try to be Kurt, which I think is a huge importance. And yeah, I think, should Nirvana maybe be off the, like, list of songs you should cover? Yes.
Probably.
Don't cover Nirvana. Whatever you do, don't cover Nirvana. I'm in a band that covers Nirvana. Don't cover Nirvana. I'm saying it. Like, I don't do as good of a job. Nobody's going to. But if you're going to do it, make it your own and have a good time with it.
Yeah. But does it deserve to be on the album?
Because it's funny. So my takeaway is I just don't like Breaker's Roar, which is the second track.
Fair.
And I literally, when I was like writing my like one word or one sentence take, I was like, this is an interlude. Like, and which is interesting. You know, you've got interludes in all sorts of like punk albums, hip hop albums. It's not a skit. So I mean, better than that.
Yeah.
Most of that stuff on the 36 chamber, hard to listen to, especially in 2024.
Yeah.
So like, I feel like there are worse things you could put on an album, but yeah, I think I'm just going to take away of like, if we're trimming the fat, let's trim the interlude versus let's trim what is an interesting take on a alt rock classic. I know you're going to make that face. I knew it was funny when I sent this to you. I was like, he is going to hate the cover of In Bloom.
I didn't hate it. I didn't think it needed to exist.
Fair.
That's it.
Yeah. All right. Moving right along.
Because we have places to be. I did also just want to mention, I did forget this earlier, but I thought the album ended really abruptly. That was something that like I did notice, and it was not like it wasn't worth flaying. Like Call to Arms kind of ends, and then the album's just done.
And it is crazy because it's 9 tracks and 38 minutes.
Yeah, and I was like, oh shit.
Yeah.
All right, it's
Yeah.
over. Yep.
Yeah,
It's
it's
thought
quick.
I'd throw that out there as one more
But-
little thing.
I don't know. Again,
I don't need you to go on a tangent about it. I just
trim
wanna-
the fat. Trim the fat. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah, that's fair. All right, we're on a turntable now, which is these are the questions that you knew the least a bit about because the formatting on Apple's email client is not amazing. So the first question is, there are a ton of alt-rock influences on this record, as we've already talked about. It's country made by someone who reads books. That is the tagline I came up for this album, or just Sturgill in general, or who has read a book and lived some life. As a former emo kid yourself, whose crowning achievement was introducing me to Killswitch Engage at a young age, what is your take on the idea that all roads seem to lead to country these days in the music industry?
I take offense. I learned all that, like, at the time of this podcast, Chris Christopherson has been dead for like maybe a month. He was an icon of country music and was a Rhodes Scholar and went to
Made
Oxford.
country by people who read a book.
Yeah. No,
I'm not
just
saying
saying
he's
like,
the only one.
okay, that's all I was getting at.
I'm not saying he's the only one.
It is interesting. It's a very interesting thing. And, I am a suburbanite who now lives in a very rural town. Caitlin's going to yell at me for that. I live in a rural town. Not very. It's fine.
It's all right.
And I now, have an old square body F-250 and, like go hunting and all that stuff. And I just feel like that's just the way my life has progressed. You and Max have made fun of me and save every photo of me doing quote unquote
country shit.
Yeah, doing country shit, quote unquote. And usually I just, say if you make fun of me anymore, you're not getting any bison steak tonight. So
There's a hilarious picture of you sitting on a fence post with a piece of hay in your mouth. Come on.
that there was no hay in my mouth, but
There may or may not now be a piece of hay in your mouth
after Photoshop has
after
happened.
some altercations that were necessary.
So I think it is interesting. I think it's just what's in vogue right now. Like there is a crazy thing. I went and saw Zach Bryan, who's kind of like a really huge guy in whatever you can call us, modern country, modern Americana. And I went and saw him at a festival in San Diego, California.
Yeah.
And the amount of people that were wearing Wranglers and cowboy boots, except they were tucking their jeans into their boots.
They're cosplaying.
It is, and it feels really weird. And I feel like I watched this like really interesting like reel on Instagram about it, where it was like, why are there software developers in San Diego who have red heelers and drive square body Chevys and like wear Wranglers? And it's Seeger. It's Seeger, which is funny. I've actually hung out with all of the guys who own Seeger. They came through town, and a buddy of mine knew him and had a bonfire. They're actually really cool guys. But it is that like we live in like urban areas, but we also,
Appreciate the aesthetic.
appreciate the aesthetic. And it is weird. It's just what's in vogue now, I think. And it's fine. Like Jelly Roll winning awards for being a country musician, Post Malone putting out a country album, MGK covering or doing a quasi cover of Country Roads. It's what's in vogue, and it's fine. They're going to make music they want to make. I can't really like harsh on that, but it is kind of funny. I have multiple friends who are professional musicians and have been like, yeah, I play in a bluegrass band, or yeah, I play in a metal band, but if I could make that country money, I would make that country money.
Country's just it's just the cow or the horse that hasn't been beaten dead yet.
Yeah, it's like it is a cash cow, and like country music is great. Like Max got to play with a dude who was the original guitarist for As I Lay Dying, who is now the touring guitarist for a country artist.
Yeah.
And you're like, you know what?
Get the country money, dog.
Get that country money, because the metal money is not there.
Yeah.
So like I get that in some aspects. It is weird how like everybody, like, Beyonce made a country album.
Yeah.
But she made it with Rhiannon Giddens, who is of the Carolina Chocolate Drops, who has been part of the folk, bluegrass, whatever community since 2005. And I mean, is an amazing person. So like, I feel like you got to take the good with the bad. You got to be like, oh, it's really awesome that you've done this. Like you have exposed maybe some people to this, but also, yeah, it is kind of weird. I like Shabuzi. I'm going to say it.
Oh boy.
It's fun to listen to, and I don't care.
We're going to move on.
Yeah, I knew it.
before we get too deep into that.
Yeah.
Listening to this album here in Colorado hits a little different than when I was listening to it in Ohio to prep. What are your thoughts on context being important to consuming art? and what makes sites like these mountains and plains integral to understanding country music sonically? What's another genre where you feel like location is important to enjoy it?
I mean, location's interesting. It is funny because you say that like, oh, location doesn't hit. You basically live in Kentucky, which is where Sturgill is from.
Yeah, but I live like the deepest I go into Kentucky on a regular basis is just across the river, and which is more of a liberal center than it is anything else. Like it is honestly the black sheep of that state.
I don't know. I would say like, yeah, if I'm out driving a dirt road, I'm still going to listen to things like Spanish love songs and My Chemical Romance. But yeah, there's occasionally times where I'm going to listen to Bird Hunters by Turnpike Troubadours and just going to feel like, you know what? This fits the mood.
Something's right. Yeah. Something's right about this.
And I think, also you're on vacation. Things are a little less stressed.
Yeah,
maybe you're a little more open.
Yeah.
Or maybe you're just not as going to be angry, not as depressed. Maybe I can listen to some country that's like not completely about nihilism.
My wife and I dig your vibe. That's all. That's all. You're like, maybe you're a little more open. Maybe you're a little more loose out on the road.
Yeah.
Like, anyway, what are you doing later?
Yeah, I mean, there is a track that it does have some subtle hints of nihilism. I might be reading into a little too much there, Sturgill, but I feel like you're there. I feel like that's what you're saying. Maybe I'm wrong. Who knows? But I will say, I think location can play a lot. I think really more than anything, location has to do with nostalgia. Nostalgia has to do with where you are. Like you and I spent a lot of our childhood hanging out in northern Michigan. When we're up there, I don't know if I like. It's not that I'm like, oh, I'm in northern Michigan, I'm gonna listen to some bluegrass because this is where Billy is from and all that jazz. It's more like I was 17 and this song is what we listen to on a CD player.
Yeah.
And this is what is like going to really bring me there. So I think,
well, thanks to Max, I can't not associate Weezer's Red Album with being up there because he was low key obsessed with it when it came out.
Oh, I do remember this. And I remember like playing Pork and Beans and all that stuff. But I also remember you requesting that I download Let's Get It Started so that we had Black Eyed Peas to listen to in the cabin. So,
But did we get started? Did we get started?
Did we win cleanup? I don't know.
Maybe.
Probably not. Andy Fine, you might have been the reason why. It wasn't David.
Andy Fine would request Hysteria by Muse, which is fine.
Yeah.
That's fine.
I just had to be like, nobody else wants to listen to Muse except for you.
Yeah.
and that's called crowd management. I think like there is certain things like, yeah, granted, I'll admit like there have been days where I've been helping my in-laws out on their property, like bucking a tree, like chainsawing it down. I'm putting Sturgill in my headphones and maybe not Spanish love songs because it just fits the mood a little better.
The mood.
And that's fine. And then, also just, staring out at the mountains, you might want to hear something a little happier and hopeful.
A little more open, I think. Because I think like the wide open spaces out here is like it's so expansive and like at least like the Sturgill style of country.
Yeah.
Because like I'm not exactly versed, but like the Sturgill style of country feels kind of big and open like that.
Yeah.
And like there's something to it. Just like a lot of rap feels really busy and it's like because it comes from urban centers where that are really busy and nothing stops moving and it's really loud and like abrasive. So I think there's merit to like where it came from as far as like when you're there, it's like peak time to enjoy this thing.
Yeah, I could see that. I could definitely see that.
All right.
I'm not going to fight you on too much.
That's fair.
I'm not Max.
No, we're burning out. Plus, I have a really sore feeling that the light is just being reflected in this window in the shot, and that's going to bum me out in a few hours when I edit this.
I hope you're listening and not staring at whatever the light is in the background.
Yeah, everyone just like put this on a different tab, all right? Like start the video and catch out the cool views, and then just put it on a different tab. Just move on with your life. Give me. I need the watch hours though, so don't click out. That's important. Don't play it at double speed. That affects it. Anyway, I'm not going to get into the weeds on analytics.
Move on.
All right, last question of the show because we got to get you out of here. I read this album was written as an introduction to the world, like an introduction to the world for his son. We went over that part. What kind of guide would you want to make for a new child of yours, and what would it entail? What kind of composition would it be? And all this to ask is, what kind of expression do you think would be best for you and your offspring? Because you are a musician, but you do other things as well.
I do other things as well. I don't know. Like, I feel like Sturgill's take on it is going to be like the best. Like, you know, you give a kid a name, you hope for the best. It's a gift to them. Their life is a gift. It's also not their choice. So hopefully
Yeah.
you don't raise a neonatal kid and like, whatever, or not neonatal, natalist, whatever I'm looking at. Maybe just cut that part out. But I think it is pretty interesting to think like, yeah, like you're going to try to give your kid the best advice that you can. And probably from the years of like 10 to like 20, they're gonna be like, whatever.
Yeah. Like, all right.
And like, you know, I feel like everybody's got that, you know, all you can hope is that like you know your kid and your kid knows that you care about them.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that would be like, that'd probably be the biggest thing. And, you know, I do a lot of playing music with just an acoustic guitar. I do some with an electric guitar, but I think if I were to like be passing down something to my kid, it'd probably be with an acoustic guitar. And yeah, I think the coolest moment I ever got to have with my own father was when he was just like, I never thought you were going to be the kid or grow up to be a guy who wore a wool suit to work every day. And that was your life.
Yeah.
And like, he knew me well enough to know that's not what I wanted. He knew me well enough to be like, that's fine. Do whatever you want. Just, you know, take care of yourself.
Yeah.
And so I think it's funny to give your kid a bunch of advice because the kid's not going to grow up in the world that you grew up in at all. Especially you and I, who have fathers that are the same age and thought that the 50s were the shining era of America.
Yeah.
And then we're really confused about the latter half of, you know, the 20th and the early half of the 21st century.
Yeah.
So like, I think there is some fairness there that like all you can do is I think tell your kid you love them, tell your kid you respect them, tell your kid that you want the best for them. And like, that's all that really needs to be taken away. You can give them advice and hopefully your advice to them is like, just don't be an idiot. Keep it between the lines. Like,
Yeah.
don't crash your car.
Yeah. There was a dad that gave me the advice that stupid hurts.
Yeah.
And I think of that often.
Yeah. And I think like, yeah, that's fair. And as somebody who has had to, you know, attempt to be a role model for a lot of kids, one thing that I maybe do regret, but maybe is kind of okay, it depends on the age of the kid, is just being more honest.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I had a thing where I was a camp counselor for a lot of years. I wanted to quit after the first week and was like, really like, this is the dumbest thing ever. Like, why would I do this? And I waited a long time to tell people that was like how I felt about it. Whereas like, if other people don't like, this is hard. Like being in charge of someone is hard. And I like wanted to quit, but then I didn't. Like, I feel like that's also a good message to pass on to your kid. Like, it's okay to think this is terrible.
Oh yeah.
It's okay to think this is a terrible time.
Yeah.
But like,
it's allowed to suck.
Yeah.
And it's also allowed to be good for you.
Yeah.
You
But
know,
like have a good support system, have a good like move on from there. And like, I think that's a huge thing.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Yeah. I don't
Just testing you to see how you can do with round 2. Cause at one point you were a father figure to me. So,
know. Yeah. That's
so
really
like tough. Now there's just testing you on how you're going to do round 2 with my late in life half brother.
You are definitely allowed to treat him as a half brother or half sister or half child, whatever you want to
Whatever.
do. Yeah.
But all right, man. I normally have a mini game for the end of the episode.
Yeah.
But for you, I have a special. You get to, for the last 30 seconds of the show, you can say anything you want to make Max mad. And then we'll end it. We'll call it here. Our fancy dinner, like romantic dinner by candlelight is what it looks like now.
So here's the thing.
Okay.
If you had a really nice car
Mm-hmm.
and you were like, I want my car to look a little more beat up.
Uh-huh.
If you went and then paid a company
Mm-hmm.
to ding your car,
Yeah.
scratch it
Mm-hmm.
artistically,
Yeah.
and then you paid maybe more money than if that car was just brand new and unscathed,
Mm-hmm.
what would you think?
That guy's a poser.
And that is how I feel about relict guitars. When you buy a guitar that is just beat up on purpose and you purchase it that way, that is the silliest thing ever. I like to refer to that as stolen valor.
Oh.
Stolen valor.
Stolen valor.
And if you
Yeah,
own
where
a
were
guitar,
you road dogging this guitar,
Yeah.
Max?
Yeah, if you own a guitar that you beat up and you scratched, like those are cool.
That's earned.
I've dropped a guitar on concrete. It has a big crack in it because of that. But I did that and I know that I'm an idiot for doing that. But when you buy a guitar that is pre-abused from the company that made it, that is the silliest thing ever.
Dude, what are you rocking now? An Abercrombie and Fitch distressed guitar? What's going on? What is this? My thing that I was going to make Max mad was that your wife called me your strongest friend.
It's true.
And that is fun for me. And this will probably come out close to Christmas. Best Christmas present ever. So that's going to do it for here at the Full Spin Club. Thanks so much for watching. If you made it this far, please like, comment, subscribe. Tell us how much you don't like Max in the comments, and then we'll keep this show going. But thanks so much for coming on, Fred. Hell yeah. Thanks for dealing with the ridiculous tech problems at the beginning. But that's it. We'll see you next week.
If my cheeks are rosier at the end of the podcast, it's because this has been bourbon the whole time.
Unreal. Unreal. No one respects me. All right.